Okay, here we're looking at the SeedStar 2 monitor on a GS2 display. This is the main planter screen that you'll see when in operating mode. We've got the left 3/4 of the screen as the planter, and then the right remainder on the right we've got set up as auto steer or client farm field or whatever you want to make it. Right here we've got our planter at a glance. We've got each row. Currently we're hooked to a 16 row, and each row is represented by a red bar, which means it's not planting. The closer it gets, it'll turn to orange, and then when it's accurate, you'll see little black small short bar graphs. The perfect scenario would be a straight line with no bar graphs on it. So again, you can see there's row 4, row 5, row 6, here's row 8 and 9, 11 and 12. This is our actual population that we have set currently. If we would like to see a population, like a scan that we're familiar with older monitors, we'll hit this arrow right here. We can actually select a row we want to watch. So we've got our minimum, we've got our maximum, and we've got our scan. And our average population will always be displayed right here on this line. So I hit it again, I go back to my planter at a glance. These two bars are my half-width disconnect. And so this would be the left side. If you flip the switch to turn the left side off, it will turn gray or black. And then this side, if you flip the right side off, it will also turn gray or black. Now this is a hydraulic drive planter, variable rate. There's a couple buttons over here that will pertain to that. The first one is Quick Start Reset. Now what Quick Start is it allows you to back in a corner, let the planter down, and then take off, and what it will do is it will minimize the amount of skip that you have when you start from a dead stop. Now once you back in the corner and let the planter down, Quick Start will automatically begin to operate and start to count down, but you've only got 6 seconds to move. So if you're waiting on the marker to let down and you get the tractor in forward and you make sure everything's clear, and now that 6 seconds has passed, what you need to do is hit this Quick Start Reset just before you let out on the clutch, and then you'll be able to go ahead and minimize the amount of skip that you have. This next button is what they call rotate meters, and I'll go ahead and press it. And it says to rotate the seed meters, I need to raise the planter, I cannot be moving, and I've got to have a hydraulic pressure to my motors. Once I raise the planter, there'll be a button down here that will allow me to continue. It will rotate the planter half a turn, approximately. I can hit the button again, it'll rotate the meter another half a turn. So if I want to cancel it, this always means cancel. The button will appear live right here when you get your hydraulics on and you have the planter raised in the air. So that's rotate meters. So if I've just filled the planter and I want to charge the meters, that's what this button right here is going to do. These two buttons right here, this would be my left vacuum, this would be my right vacuum, and it's just going to tell you what your vacuum blowers are putting out. Here is some performance monitor things, and you can change those. Here would be my ground speed. This is the amount of acres it's going to be. If I've previously mapped this field, it'll count down the acres I've got left. This shows me how many acres I've done, and this shows me how many acres per hour that I'm doing. And that's going to take care of the run page on SeedStar 2. Now we want to go over the setup of the SeedStar 2 monitor. Now to get to the setup portion, here I've turned the key on and I've got my run page displayed on my GS2. So I'm going to go down to this menu button, and I'm going to come to the E button here that says planter, and it's going to bring me back to my run screen, and that's going to be this F button. If I hit the F button, I will see what I want to see on the run screen. I've got some other buttons over here, and that's what we're going to go through right now. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to button G right here, which is my planter frame setup. Okay, right here I'm on the frame tab. Currently I'm hooked to a 16-row planter. I'm at 30-inch spacing, and I'm 480 inches wide. So that is currently set up correct for the planter that I have. Now what transport mode is going to do, if I touch the transport mode, that is going to bring up this screen, and it's going to get rid of all those nuisance warnings as I'm going down the road. It's not going to sit there and buzz and beep at me. To get out of transport mode, I hit that button again, brings me back to my run page, and I can go right back into my setup from here. My next tab is the sensor tab. Okay, this is my how many seed tubes do I have. I've got 16 rows, and they're currently all turned on. Now if there was a row that was causing problems and I went back and checked it and I verified it was planting correctly, and I determined it was a seed tube or a sensor or something, I can actually pull up that row and I can turn that row off. And that way it won't continue to sit there and buzz and beep at me if I happen to have a sensor problem. I just don't have a sensor in the cab with me. You're going to want to get that fixed as soon as possible, because if you turn that row off, if it does quit planting, you will not get a warning. Down here at the bottom, this is called headland warning suppression. And if I check that box, what that's going to do is it's going to ignore any time that I raise the planter. It's going to ignore the warning that says it's not planting. Now you must have a height sensor installed on the planter for that to work. So if you have a variable rate planter, you're okay. It's equipped with a height sensor. If you have a mechanical drive planter, you're going to have to install a height sensor to get that feature to work. If you're running row command, I would suggest getting that done if you have a mechanical drive planter with row command. Okay, we've taken care of our seed tube sensors, so now we're going to do the drop down menu and I'm going to go to my vacuum sensor. Okay, shows I have 2 vacuum sensors, which is correct, and right now it's showing me that my vacuum is approximately 0 on both of them. Now I'm going to go ahead and calibrate them. So right now I'm on sensor number 1, and that cal value is always going to be 5.66, so don't change that. But if I want to zero it out, I hit 0 and it says turn your vacuum off. My vacuum is not running. I hit that, I've now zeroed them out. And I can do the same thing for sensor number 2. I hit 0, turn the vacuum off, and I hit 0. Now both of my sensors are zeroed out. My next sensor, if you have fertilizer, which this planter currently does not, if I can tell it up to 1 or 2 fertilizer sensors. The height sensor, again, if you have a variable rate drive planter or you install a height sensor for headland suppression, you're going to want to calibrate this, and this is my calibration page. So what you're going to do to calibrate it is you're going to raise the planter all the way up. You're going to touch that button. It says fully raise the planter in plant mode to calibrate. So you just hold on the SCV, raise the planter all the way up. When you get it all the way up, you're going to hit the enter button. Then to lower it, you'll lower it all the way down. You'll hit that button. You'll fully lower the planter in plant mode to calibrate. Get it all the way on the ground, you'll hit the enter button. That will set the lower setting. Now, I've got 2 checks here, common and separate. You're going to want to have the common box checked, because that means it's going to start and stop planting at the same height. So I highlight the check mark in the common box. I raise the planter where I want it to start and stop planting, which is approximately 2 inches off the ground. Get the openers about 2 inches off the ground, and then you'll hit that big long bar right there, and then that will set your start stop. So when it raises above that point, it's going to stop planting. When it goes below that point, it's going to start planting. The last one is tractor speed. Most likely if it's in an 8 or 9000 series tractor, you're just going to want that to be on auto. And it's going to automatically go to radar. If something were to happen to the radar, it'll default back to the wheel speed. The next tab I have is drives. Okay, drive configuration. It's variable rate. I have a vacuum meter. I've got a Pro Series drive, and quick start is enabled. That one is correct. My drive sections. Motor 1 is running row 1 through 8. Motor 2 is running rows 9 through 16. So that is also correct. Now this planter does not have row command, but if it did, I would use that button to set up my row command. If you have a row command planter, we'll cover that in another section. Finally, my display. If I'm in an 8R tractor, I have a virtual terminal, and this is my virtual terminal. If I don't want it on my GS2, I can use this system to transfer it over to the display that's in my tractor. And that's going to cover button G in my GS2. Continuing on with the setup of our SeedStar 2 monitor, I'm going to go back into my menu button. I'm going to go back to my planner. And again, we had the F button was our run screen. The G button, we went through all of our tabs and setup. Now I'm going to go to button H. And button H is where I'm going to set my populations. I'm going to put in my seed discs and just tell the planner a little bit more about what I'm wanting to do. Currently I have corn selected, and that's what we're going to use for now. Now I have a box here that says use one rate for all motors. Now in most instances that's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to have that box checked. For example, if you were going to plant a different rate on the left side versus the right side, you could split to a different rate, left versus right. But most guys don't do that, so for most cases you're just going to have that box checked. Now this is critically important. The disc type that we have, we're planting corn, so that's selected, but we do not have a standard corn disc. We don't have a standard, we don't have a small, we don't have a popcorn, but I do have a Pro Max 40. Now that's Deere's flat disc with the 40 cells in it, so I'm going to select that disc. Now that's important because there's 40 cells in a Pro Max disc and there's 30 cells on a small and standard disc. So if the computer thinks that I only have 30 cells and I've actually got 40, I'm going to be overplanting by about a third. So if you get out there and you notice that you put in 30,000 and you're planting 40,000, probably a good bet that you need to change the plate listed in your SeedStar 2. And that's done right here. Okay, now I'm going to go to the Show Rates button. Okay, rate 1 is all I have in there right now, and it's 36,000. So I may not want to plant 36,000 in every single field that I have, so I'm going to come down here and I'm going to add a few more rates in. So I'm going to go to Change Rates. Okay, rate 1 is on. It's set at 36,000. My high warning is set at 10% high. My low warning is 10% low, and that tells me that rate 1 is set up where I want it. Now I'm going to go to rate 2. Okay, I've got to turn it on. Now I'm going to put that in at 34,000. Okay, again it automatically puts in my high and low warn at 10% high or low. Go to rate 3, just the same, turn it on. I'm going to set it at 32,000. Again, high-low is set at 10%. Rate 4, I'm going to set it at 30,000. Again, high and low are 10%. Rate 5, turn it on. Set it at 38,000. There's 38,000, again, high and low. Now rate 6 is going to be a prescription. If I've written a prescription and I have my variable rate planner, this is where I'm going to have that prescription, and that will be fed into the card on the monitor. If you're not doing prescriptions, you won't be able to add the 6th rate in, so just ignore rate number 6. So once I get everything done, I'm going to hit enter. It gives me a list of all of my populations. I hit the enter button one more time. Go back to my home screen. Now up at the top, I now have a live button. I can touch this button right here on the go, pick rate 4, and it switches it to 30,000 immediately. If I want to go back, I touch that button again, brings me to my rate page. I'm going to select 32,000. My planner is now going to plant 32,000. And you can do that on the go. You can do it while stopped. You can do it at any time, and the planner will change immediately. Continuing on with our setup, mainly what we're going to look at now is more information rather than setup. Just some things that the monitor can tell you about your planting operation and what you've done so far. We'll go back to my menu and my planner. I'm going to come down to this 1, 2, 3 button. Okay, this is my totals page, and here's where I would actually clear the acres. So let's say I pull in here and it's counted up 60 acres, and I want to zero that out. I would just touch the screen, touch 0, and now I've zeroed it out. Now remember also I told you could put in a feature that would count down how many acres you had left. So if I know that I'm pulling into an 83 acre field, I can put 83 acres in there. And now as I plant, the planner will count down how many acres I planted, so I'll know how many acres I have left. Again, here's the hours on the planner and the actual acres planted. Those are like an hour meter, so you really can't clear those out. My calculator, if I want to estimate seed, I've got, by the bag, 30,000 population, 80,000 seeds per bag. I'm planting 120 acres. It says I need 45 bags. So a nice little thing to count. You figure up seed. Most of you can do that in your head faster than you can type it in. The vacuum, again, you put in your disc, put in your seeds per pound, and it's going to give you a recommended vacuum, which right now is at 11, which is probably on the low end. Most times you're going to be 12 to 15 on your vacuum, but this is a good place to start.
Okay, now we're going to talk about setting up your row command sections on your planner. Here we're on the home page of the planner. We can see that basically all we've got enabled is our half width disconnect setup right now, showing that we've got 12 rows on the left and 12 rows on the right. But the planner actually has row command clutches, so we want to set that up so we've got 12 sections here for the sections of the planner. So to do that, we're going to come into our menu and go to our planner, and we're going to go to our letter G right here, which is going to have our frame, sensor, and drives tabs. And we're going to come in here to the drives. We're going to go to this drop down that says drive configuration. We're going to go to row control sections, and we're going to use this little setup icon right here. Normally with 24 rows we'll set up 12 sections, 16 rows we'll set up 8 sections, and so on. We always recommend doing 2 row sections. So we'll come in here to number of sections, change that to 12 on this planner, and then we'll go to the next page, which is this icon right here. So we're on section, we're going to set up section 1, start row is 1, end row would be 2. So we're going 1 to 2, 3 to 4, so we've just manually set up 12 sections for every 2 rows on the planner. You saw whenever we went from 11 to 12, it automatically filled that in. That's because you cannot jump across your half width disconnect. So if you try to make a section of like 12 and 13, that won't work. Just to keep that in mind if you want to set up a different configuration than what we've done here. Okay, whenever I do that, it's going to ask me to hit enter. It's going to save everything on the planner, and then I'm going to have to cycle power to get my planner to where I can use it again. Now my new settings should be saved for my row command. I'm also going to go in now to show you how to set up Swath Control Pro for your on-off times. Let it all boot up here, and you can see we're back on our planner homepage here, and we can see here we've got 12 sections, and every one corresponds to the 2 rows directly above it. If you're not using Swath Control, or if for some reason you want to manually go in and turn these sections off, you've always got the ability to do that right here. You know, if I wanted to turn off these 6 rows, I can just hit this icon right here and turn off the rows however I see fit. Okay? If I want us to go and set up my swath control, I'm going to go to Menu, Greenstar 2 Pro, and this letter E right here is my swath control settings. Okay? I'm going to go right here to these settings. Now it's very important, we always put minimize skip on all these settings right here for your boundaries and your coverage, meaning that both rows are going to be all the way across into the headland before that section turns off. If you go to this minimize overlap, and you can see right here basically as soon as the outer row came into that headland, it had turned the whole section off, and we're not going to want that. We're going to do minimize skip on everything. Your turn on, turn off times, these are just defaults at 1 second and 0.6 seconds. Basically what that means is the planner is going to engage the row clutches, it's going to turn on and start planting 1 second before that planner actually gets out of the headland. And this 0.6 right here on turn off means that it's going to turn the planner off 0.6 seconds before it gets to the headland. And that's just for a delay in the time that it takes for this monitor to send that information back to the controller and to get that last seed to drop. Now, Once you get that set up, you've got a swath control checkbox right here on this page for your GS2, or we've also set up a home page that's got this swath control check mark. We always recommend turning swath control off whenever you pull into a field and start. So normally we'll have guys uncheck it, they'll put on their end rows, and then when they get done putting on their end rows, they'll hit the check mark right here. And then they'll just go to their other planter page and they can see their planter. That way, whenever you're backing up and starting and stopping and everything, you don't have to worry about the clutches going on and off. And also, if you've got a boundary and you get outside the boundary, sometimes those clutches will turn off. So just remember to just go in there, uncheck swath control so it's not in use at all when you're starting the fields. So that's setting up row command clutches on your planter.